This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbot.
I'd like to punch him in the face.
Well, let's get back to it.
America is bracing for a brutal Arctic blast as a massive polar vortex smashes into the country, bringing deep freeze and catastrophic winter storms. Somebody should look into that very strongly. Meteorologists are warning that this will be the most punishing Arctic invasion yet.
Warning, warning.
This will cement the period as one of relentless, record-breaking cold. It is unprecedented. I can be more unprecedented than anybody. Frigid forces in the Arctic are converging, pushing what should be confined to the North Pole deep into the US, which sounds like God has made a judgment on recent events to me. This will be the 10th time this winter that the polar vortex, which keeps the coldest air at the top of the world, stretches like a rubber band man to send it south. In a normal winter, it happens maybe 2 or 3 times. This winter, with record snow in Narlands and drought and destructive fires in South California, it has not been normal. You can say that again. Nothing normal in America at the moment. There is nothing normal happening in America at the moment, but don't worry. It's not the effects of climate change, because Vice President Donald Trump has signed an executive order saying that climate change does not exist. It's a miracle. Meanwhile, here, Brits are about to be battered by snow. Can you be battered by snow?
No.
Weather maps show vast swathes of the country will turn purple on Sunday, indicating snowing conditions for millions, and there is never any good news in a sentence that contains the word swathes.
Correct.
Maps show the frosty band stretching from eastern Scotland land down to Birmingham and much of the west. Shall I read that again?
No.
Maps show the frosty band stretching from eastern Scotland land down to Birmingham and much of the West Midlands. And what can we expect, apart from this battering of swathes? Well, western Scotland appears to bear the brunt of the blizzard, with as much as 2 centimetres of snow falling each hour.
What?
Is that it? 2 centimetres? That's about that much. Eastern Scotland will see as much as 1 centimetre of snow fall per hour. England, as much as 0.6 centimetres of snow could fall per hour on Monday. Wow, that is almost literally nothing at all. So expect buses to not run, trains to be delayed, roads to be unpassable, planes to be cancelled, schools to be shut, power to go out, taps to go dry, and Nigel Farage to blame it on immigrants.
I'm a nutcase.
Expect all of those things. Texts and tweets and such from last night. Messages as follows. Dan says, I hope you're feeling better this week. I'm visiting London and I needed to drive around a bit. I am surrounded by morons. Well, he must have been driving through Streatham. No offence. Yeah, I know, Dan. Tell me about it. This says, Nick, everybody seems to be talking about continuing helping Ukraine in the war. But what? Nick, everybody seems to be talking about continuing helping Ukraine in the war. But what worries me is, where is the money going to come from if the US withdraws its support? We don't even have enough to resurface our roads or repair our schools and hospitals. Yeah, I'm getting brain ache from trying to remember where all the potholes are on my trip in. I know where about 90% of them are, but there's just a couple that keep surprising me, and every day that goes by, they're getting bigger and bigger. I mean, it's not just a bump that you go in, it's like the whole car judders. It's a bang! And you think, oh, damn it, I've tried to remember to remind myself to recall where that pothole is. There's one on the Vauxhall roundabout. It's the second lane from the left as you head from west to east. It's absolutely gigantic. I think I saw a car at the bottom of it. And it's getting worse every day. And they've got really sharp edges. I'm very surprised that I haven't blown a tyre. But you know me. I'm not one to complain.
Stop whining.
Anyway, never mind about America withdrawing its support. Don't really make no never mind. All America is doing to support Ukraine is giving them weapons that they're buying from their own defence companies. So it's essentially another giant transfer of wealth from the American people to the industrial military complex. They're not actually giving them, financial benefit, not much. And they're certainly not giving them any humanitarian benefit. Humanitarian? America? Of course not. No, they're just selling them bombs and bullets. This text says, I think the plan is to make Europe the enemy and then they will divide and conquer us all. Well, that does sound like a plan. And if that is the plan, then it's going very well. This says, Nick, I voted no. UK voted to leave Europe and take our borders back. Why are you now talking about Europe's border? Their borders is not any of our business. Up to Europe to sort it out. Russia would not have attacked Ukraine if UK haven't voted for Brexit. Our fault. Well, you didn't leave your name, but whatever your name is, you're an idiot. If that's any help. I want you to write that down and consult that frequently. Anytime you think about sending a message to me again, then think it out again. This says, you mentioned we could be at war with America and Russia soon. Can we hurry this along so we can prevent the Oasis reunion? Prevent the Oasis reunion.
Rock and roll!
All of those people that bought those tickets at vastly inflated prices, you're going to be ruining that decision about 20 minutes in. I betcha. They are so dull as a live act.
Boring!
I don't recall ever seeing a more boring live act than Oasis. I do believe that I have mentioned that frequently. It says, did you notice the narrative that Trump put on the upcoming meeting with Keir Starmer? He asked to see me, and I said yes, said Trump. Well, maybe he did, but a statesman wouldn't have blagged about it in front of the media. Correct, Amundo. Yeah. Donald Trump is a great big whiny baby. A spoilt little brat who's been given everything his entire life and hates everybody around him because they know that. I mean, that's the only assumption I can make, that he feels that people know that he's a fraud, and it makes him just furious that at the thought that other people know who he is. And he's been trying to get back at the world ever since he was a child. It's amazing, really, that the world's worst human is also the world's most powerful. I do believe that the human race has made a mistake. I think we've taken the wrong fork in the road. Lawrence in Croydon says, what were these people who were moaning about a LinkedIn profile doing for the last 7 years? Talking about Rachel Reid. You know Rachel Reid, don't you? Yeah. Apparently that's the reaction, yeah. He says, what were these people who were moaning about a LinkedIn profile doing for the last 7 years? They seem to be oblivious to the missing PPE billions. I say give the new government 15 years and see how they get on. Yes, I say that too. The Tories had 15 years to mess things up. You can't expect Labour to fix things in the first 14 days or the first 14 months, but maybe if you give them 15 years, that seems fair, doesn't it? It would also probably cost us a lot less because the governments that have piled on the most debt since the Second World War have all been Conservative. All of them. It's their routine. They smash things up, they bankrupt the country, and they trouser the profits, and then they are hurled out by an ungrateful public every now and again, and then instantly blame the Labour Party for the state of the place. Abby says, hi, Nick Abbott. Looks like voting Trump is tantamount to pressing a self-destruct button for America. What I cannot understand is the tiptoeing around him so he is not offended. Yeah, there's a lot of that. The man-child is a bully, and therefore all Western leaders need to stick two fingers up at him and face him down. Yes, they do. All bullies tend to be cowards and will respect anybody who stands up to them. Did you hear the exchange he had with a female journalist from Afghanistan? The way he publicly humiliated the woman by saying he couldn't understand what she was saying, while stating she had a beautiful accent. Typical narcissist racist, says Abby. Yeah, well, it got funnier than that. Do you see him sitting in that conflab with Narendra Modi out of India? And a reporter was asking a question in perfectly understandable English, but with an Indian accent. And Donald Trump was having the man's English translated to him by somebody who was sitting behind Trump, who was translating the man's English into English. Also in an Indian accent, if my ears don't deceive me. I've never heard or seen English translated into English before. I mean, come on. And the problem with standing up to Donald Trump is that I saw a video of him when he was much younger. It must have been recorded about 100 years ago. He looked like he was only 30. And it was Barbara Walters, this famous TV interviewer in America. And he just spent the entire time going on about how he wanted to wreak vengeance on those who had not helped him. Not people who had actually worked against him, but just people who hadn't helped him. And I do believe that he was going through he always is, going through money problems at the time, and he was trying to get various banks to, front him some more cash. I'm the person who lost money running a casino. Please, give me more money. And they said, no. And he spent the rest of his life vowing vengeance on the people who wouldn't bail him out. Richard Branson said the exact same thing. He said it was the most dispiriting meeting with a business person he had ever taken, did Richard Branson. He said that Trump spent the entire time talking about exactly that. Who and how he was going to wreak vengeance against. He is the world's worst human. Also the world's most powerful. And the thing about upsetting him and not tiptoeing around him is that he doesn't care about anybody else. Leaders of other countries, even the dictatorial ones, they do have a passing interest in the welfare of their own citizens. But Trump's not remotely interested. And so he is in the uniquely beneficial position of being able to use a country, not just any old country, the world's most powerful, as a weapon against anybody that he doesn't like, and to help with the consequences for his own people. I mean, that's a hell of a thing to have, ain't it? No conscience at all. Certainly helps being a tyrant. So that's the problem with him. He will use America as a weapon against anybody who says his hair looks funny. I think you'll find that that's actually true. And by the way, your hair, if that is indeed what it is, it does look funny.
I don't wear a toupee.
This is LBC. Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Think you're talking to?
Myself at the moment. Philip in Whiteleaf says, you are wrong. What? You are wrong, he says. The government is saying nobody will eventually smoke in this country. That is only the start. They will eventually decide what is junk food. They will eventually decide we should not drink alcohol. That is the future. Hey, Philip, can I interest you in some punctuation? I've got a couple of commas here. You might like them. The government is not going to tell us what to eat and what to drink. I mean, they may put advice on the worst things that we put in our face, but that is just good governance. I mean, you are best off being fully informed. Do you not think, Philip? But they're not going to tell you not to drink alcohol. Please. No government ever is going to tell you not to drink alcohol in this country.
Booze.
It's just not going to happen. They might ask you politely, pretty please with sugar on top, could you drink less of it? But they ain't going to tell you to stop drinking it. They just won't. Because if they did, they'd never sniff power again, ever. I mean, that would be something to get the naysayers, the people who can't be bothered to vote, to go and express their preference at the voting booth. No drinking. Terry in Bournemouth says, Evening, Nick. Do you think that the orange tyrant and his master from SpaceX and Tesla realise that if they destroy the world militarily and or financially by pricing the working and middle classes out of a lifestyle, they won't have anybody to sell their products and services to in the West? Yeah, I don't believe that they are thinking that long term. They're just thinking about the right now. How can I make as many billions as possible immediately and preferably become the first trillionaire on this planet, and then to hell with what happens next because I'll be fine. They're not really long-term thinkers. I mean, some of the stuff, I've got detailed files, and blimey, you can't take your eyes off the internet for a second these days. There's stuff that's happening. It says, you were saying that China is a better bet for a lot of countries to deal with due to Trump or thin skin. After 4 years of him and Musk draining the US economy, China will overtake the US economically, says Jim, mucking out his horse stables at stupid o'clock. Your horse stables need mucking out. Well, you shouldn't have made them mucky, Jim. Yes, I do believe that China is the one that must be, I bet they're waking up laughing at this point. Absolutely everything that the Tango Twit is doing is helping China enormously. I mean, China looks a pretty stable place to do business with right now, doesn't it? America, on the other hand, not so much. Not so much. We should be running in the opposite direction. Michael in Ipswich says, Nick, the main threat from within seems to be social media, and that came from DJ Vance's Tech Bros. And have you seen Trump's press secretary? How angry is she? She is very angry indeed. The president has made it very clear. It is a fact. We're already in the alternative facts arena. Yeah, what's up with her? Maybe she doesn't like her new job. Well, who would? I mean, she'd have to negotiate Mr. Grabby Hands every day, for a start. Pawing her and shouting at her at the same time. Is there anybody on Earth who knows what that is like? Hey, Melania, any idea what that's like?
I don't care.
She actually doesn't care. Beyond caring at this point. This one says, I am charging towards the end. These are the messages from last night. This says, all those tractor people were breaking the law using red diesel on the public highway to protest about not wanting to pay half the inheritance tax that everybody else who has assets does. Yeah, well, it's worse than that. They don't want to pay even half, and they get double the allowance as anybody else, and they're still complaining.
Stop whining.
Yeah, all those pretend farmers in those brand spanking new tractors. Have you ever seen a bunch of cleaner tractors in your life? There wasn't a speck of dirt on them. Every single one of them looked like they'd come straight from the manufacturer. Curious. Odd. It's almost as though somebody was using them, the people that were driving them, in order to, advance their own cause. Somebody with a lot of money, I bet. Chris in Middlesbrough says, I'm convinced there's more intelligent life out there in our galaxy, never mind the universe. No wonder they gave us a wide berth. Yeah. Well, I mean, if they have, invisibility cloaks, as they most certainly do, if they've got the technology to buzz around these parts, I mean, they could be here and we can't see them. Maybe they treat this world like a sort of a pantomime. Every one of their years, they come around and see what we've done lately. They'll be sitting there in their space vehicles going, Kenny Everett. Dan in Kent says, hi Nick, it's scary to think what Beavis and Butthead, Trump and Elon will do next. Maybe they will want even more money and power and start invading others and enslaving countries for their own Squid Games. They are not well, and their voters, God help a free world from the orange bald man and his sidekick. Again, no punctuation. It's just, you're just blurting your thoughts out all over the internet. Try reading the stuff before you send it to me. Or don't. Chris in Oxford says, evening, Nick. On wealthy, overfed farmers, do you think the children of a deceased farmer should be exempt from inheritance tax, provided that they can prove to HMRC that they actually work on the farm? However, if Tarquin and Jemima sell the farm and live in Chelsea, they should pay 50% inheritance tax on the farm sale. I think it should be more than that. If Tarquin and Jemima sell the farm and live in Chelsea, they should be paying 100% inheritance tax on the farm sale. And I say that because I hate Tarquin and Jemima. I know that may sound unreasonable, but that's just the sort of person I am. Paul in Sale says, Donald Trump continues his verbal tripe this week. He wants to start a tariff war with his good neighbours and the EU, while spatting his ideologies on how they should be governed and run and how they need to embrace the American dream. the American dream. All because they left the Twitter X platform that his moon-faced creep of a lapdog runs. As Dame Edna Everidge would say, he talks in riddles. I think you talk in riddles, Paul. I'm not sure that much of that made sense. 4 more from last night. Let me get on with tonight's business. Oh, we were talking about chickens last night. He says, my sister has chickens. I've seen her cuddling them. I once saw her blow-drying them after she had bathed them. I told her that the oven was a faster way to cook. She wasn't pleased, but it's true. That is actually a fact. Never try to cook a chicken with a hairdryer. That's... If you learn nothing else from this show, you will have learned nothing else from this show. Alan in Hertfordshire says, I wasn't sure if I should give my wife 6 roses or a dozen yesterday, so in the end I gave her the whole tin. 3 more, actually. I miscounted. I miscounted and he miscounts.
And 1,
2,
2,
3,
6 million.
No, very close. 3. 3 was the answer we were looking for. You could have won a boat. Or a moat. This says, why so much hate on Donald Trump? He's doing exactly what he campaigned on, and now people seem surprised. It's also surprising how many people are agreeing with what he is doing by saying it actually makes sense. It actually makes sense. No. First of all, no, and then no again, in that order. He is not doing exactly what he campaigned on. He campaigned on bringing prices down on day one. How are prices in America?
Dreadful.
They've done nothing but go up. That's why people voted for him, because they thought he was going to give them more money, allow them to keep more money from their trip to the grocery store. And the price of everything in the grocery store has just gone up, and the price of everything outside the grocery store is about to go up because of these demented tariff wars that he is engaging in. So he is doing the opposite of what he campaigned on. He said he was going to stop the Ukraine war on day one. He said he was going to secure the border on day one. He's done nothing that he has campaigned on. Chris in Romford says, thanks a lot, Nick. Your maths trying to work out the age difference of the couple last night made me laugh so loud I woke my wife up. Thanks for ruining Valentine's. And finally, Alex in Budapest says, this is all in capital letters, like he's shouting at me. He says, I don't trust Labour, I don't like the Conservatives, I don't know reform, I probably won't vote. Oh, he's probably not going to vote.
Oh, fabulous.
Good plan, Alex. That'll work. Just pick the least bad option, that's all. Just think, who do you not want? And then eliminate them, and then from the list that is still available to you, then eliminate another one. And whatever you're left with, do that. But not voting at all, that is not an option for me. That should come with punishment. Not voting at all should be a punishable offence in this country. If Australians can punish people for not voting, then we can certainly do it in this country. I mean, if the lackadaisical Aussies can get it together to go down to the polling booth for fear of being punished, then that should be the case in this country as well. And Skier absolutely should give 16-year-olds the vote. And by that method, we will benefit from the wisdom of youngsters. Message coming in from next door. Yes, but Australians have barbecue and sausages. We don't. Yes, we do. Not at elections. The Australians have barbecues and sausages at elections. Do they? Well, what kind of sausages? Message coming in. He doesn't know. But he does know that they are yummy. No doubt about that. Well, that would... If we had the benefit of barbecue and sausages, or barbecued sausages, one per vote, well, people would be queuing around a block. They'd vote once and then go to the back of the queue and vote again.
Nick Abbot on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Here are the studio calls flashing up on the indicator.
Yes, this call from a person in Wimborne called Liz. Liz.
Hello, Nick.
Liz.
Seeing as democracy's given us Liz Truss and Donald Trump,
Absolutely.
Yes.
I've concluded that it's not maybe the best thing going forward.
Well, democracy from the people didn't give us Liz Truss. That was the genius of the Conservative Party members.
Oh, that's true, actually.
Yeah.
Yes, that's true. It gave us all the ones either side of Liz Truss, though, sort of.
Well, no, not really, because...
This government...
That government was also delivered to us by the genius that is the collective intelligence of the Conservative Party members.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. But it has given us Donald Trump.
Yeah, well, I suppose so, yes. But I would expect that in 50 or however long it takes for Americans to release the information, I would expect that he cheated his face off, and the evidence is from his own mouth. He said, Donald Trump said, if you recall, he was talking to a room full of Christians, and he said, my beautiful Christians, I only need your vote this time. Next time it won't be you. I can't remember the exact phrase, but something like, you'll only need to go and vote this time because we're going to fix it. You won't have to vote again.
We're going to fix it.
Yeah.
But the thing with digital evidence is that it can be whisked away very quickly. So I'm not sure that that's ever going to come to light.
Well,
really?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. But I mean, after he's dead, certainly. Well, that is assuming that he is going to die and he hasn't made some sort of pact with the devil. Somebody should lift his hair up at the back, and I bet you'll see 666 tattooed under his wig.
I don't wear a toupee.
Yeah, right there.
Maybe that's what all the orange is. Maybe it's like a preservative.
I think he was I think it's the grown-up little kid who was in Damien. Whatever that film was called. It's Damien.
The Exorcist.
No, that wasn't Damien. It was The Omen. The Omen. The Omen. Yeah, Damien, that freaky little kid in the Omen. Yeah.
Well, anyway, so I thought I'd do some homework and look up alternatives to democracy.
Well, I'm glad someone's done homework on this show.
I'm trying to be positive, you know.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome. So I looked on an internet website.
Oh, yes.
A well-known fact-based website.
Ah, yes.
And it turns out there's three main sorts of government. So there's ones where people choose.
Yes.
There's ones where people don't choose.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a third option, which includes communism and colonialism.
Right.
Which I think we can discount.
Yes. Well,
So-
communism has never really been tried, to my knowledge. I mean, it always turns immediately into sort of a twisted version of capitalism stroke fascism, where those at the very, very top have got tons of money and everybody else has got nothing at all, which is not really what communism is about, is it? No.
It's not what we're after as an end game.
No, that's right.
And I think we can rule out colonialism.
Yes.
So we've either got ones where people choose or ones where people don't choose.
But there are different types of ones where people choose.
Oh, there's lists, and there's even one called a kakistocracy.
Is that where everybody wears brown?
No, that'd be a kakistocracy.
That's right.
It's a
yes, it would be.
kakistocracy.
A kakistocracy.
Which is defined as where the least capable or most unscrupulous person gets to be in charge.
Wow. I think that may be what we've got.
I can be more presidential than anybody.
Yeah, the least capable person is in charge.
I've been successful in every business I've been in.
The least presidential person is the president.
I'm president. Can you believe it?
No, Donnie, we're stunned.
So yeah, I think we're stuck with the kakistocracy at the moment.
Yeah.
But anyway, so there's lots in each of those two camps. So either the people choose or the people don't choose. So it's, I mean, if you had your islands that you were talking about a few weeks back.
Oh, yeah.
What system of government would you go with?
I would be a benign dictator, and I would decide what would be beneficial for all of the inhabitants of my island. So that would be the best and most preferable system. Other than that, it should be a representative democracy, probably proportional representation.
Oh. I mean, there's different sorts of representational democracies, apparently.
Yeah.
Switzerland being the best, where they ask everybody.
You really have done homework.
Well, I'm trying to find a solution to our current plight.
Right.
Switzerland ask everybody about everything.
Yeah, they're very keen on referendums.
Yeah, not another one. It's like...
yeah, not another one. She said...
I don't think you're joking.
Yeah, that's what she said.
I don't think it would work here. I don't think we can ask everybody about everything. It might work on your island.
Another
maybe.
referendum?
I know.
No.
Definitely not, no.
Definitely not. And the Swiss quite like it, but there's less of them, so it probably works better there.
Yeah, they're more ordered as well.
Yeah. And they don't, so I don't think that would work here. So,
no.
A benign dictatorship, you
think?
A
benign dictatorship, yes. I mean, not in this country, it'd be a bit too messy, but too much work. But if on an island, yes.
Yes. You could have a hut at the top of the hill.
Well, I think I'd be living in something a bit more grand than a hut. A hut? For the grand leader?
A big hut.
Oh, a big hut. Oh, well, you should have said. It's going to have a rug and everything.
And everything, yeah. Well, and people could come to you and you could dish out your views.
I could dispense wisdom all over them.
Anyway, there you go. That's my halfpenny worth.
All right. Well, there you go. Thanks a lot, Liz. Cheers, my dear. 0345 6060 973. Josie says, well, today it's been so blooming cold and wet and grey, I made a chunky beef stew. Had to scrape ice off the car this morning, so I've had to join you. What's that got to do with joining me? Had to scrape ice off the car screen this morning, so I've had to join you. Oh, read on, there's more. Had to put on thermal vest and thermal long johns. Talk about the height of sexy. Not even a sight for sore eyes. Keep warm and cosy, says Josie. I am Josie. I am. I've doubled up on the thermals. I'm actually boiling hot. Thinking of opening the window. And Zach says, did you end up sticking with Severance, the TV programme? It's a journey, but it keeps getting better, says Zach. No, I bailed. It seemed to me like one of those programmes that doesn't actually go anywhere. And I've been duped too many times by that. Do you remember that programme called Lost? Which was just the biggest thing in TV land for a little while. And the first episode was great. I mean, they spent a ton of money on crashing a plane. And it was very well done. And then they crashed the plane onto an island of some sort, and there appeared to be some gigantic monster in the jungle that was shaking trees about. And we never did see it again. What the hell happened to that? And then they just sort of mooched about a bit for episode after unremarkable episode, and eventually I thought, oh, for crying out loud, what is this? So I'm not going to get duped like that again. No, I bailed on Severance. Won't get fooled like that again. Merthyr Tydfil, hello, Jeff.
Well, Nick, how are you doing?
Jeff, if you are living in Merthyr Tydfil, or if you go out to enjoy a holiday destination near you, you are soon about to be charged through the nose. Did you hear about that?
What do you mean, a tourist tax?
A tourist tax.
Well, it's well worth it if you want to go to the Goose and Cuckoo.
Ah, the Goose and Cuckoo.
Nick, funnily enough, it's funny you should mention the Goose and Cuckoo. I went round it tonight and I asked every single person. None of them had heard about Trump, right?
What? None of them had heard about Trump?
Mrs. Trump being viewed in the nude by the whole of the Russian population on the day he was elected.
Yeah, and anybody else that wanted to take a peek on the World Wide Wait. Yeah, there she was.
I can't get my head around the purpose of that because it was obviously sanctioned by, it was authorized by Putin.
Vlad the Insane, yeah, of course.
My question is Trump Putin's man? I don't
think Trump is Putin's man. I think Trump is Putin's dog. He's got him on a lead and he's taking him for walkies.
Well, if that is the case, we're in serious trouble, aren't we?
Yes.
He gets to talk to periodically. There's been a number of conversations without advisors.
Yeah.
Just the two of them.
I know, highly suspicious.
Well, what if he is Putin's man? We've had it.
Yes. Can you imagine that, Boris? Going to meet a Russian operative without any of your security detail?
I can't comment on that.
You can't comment on that? Blah, 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 blah.
And the son of that KGB officer is now in the House of Lords.
Yeah, Lord Lebedev of Siberia.
What?
You've got to be kidding me.
I can't get my head around this lot.
Is that near Chelsea, Siberia? Hand me a map.
It's not in Ukraine, that's for sure.
Right. No, he's Trump has sort of inserted himself. It's like he's just barged in, kind of like when I can't remember which meeting of the heads of governments it was, but you remember that they were having a conflab on a stage and they were all gathering together for I think one of their photos, and Trump was in the back and he just basically pushed world leaders out of the way to stand in front of them. When he'd done that, he just sort of stood there because he wasn't going anywhere. He just wanted to be in front. God, what a child!
It wasn't a push. It wasn't a push. It was a barge.
A barge, yeah.
It was thrust.
He is
through.
like 10 years old. He's like a naughty, spoilt, bratty little child.
Well, when you mention that, you wonder whether or not the people changing his nappies might have been, it was going everywhere.
Oh.
He's disgusting, man. The colour of him. The colour.
Yeah, he's like I don't know what shade it is now. Is it terracotta plant pot? I have no idea.
I don't. Well, if you can, your erudite assistant in the box did say that you were going to come up for an answer.
An answer for what?
It's a definite answer here that Trump is Putin's man.
Yes, I do believe that is true. Yeah, everything points in that direction. If you think, what would Vladimir Putin want of Donald Trump, then it does explain all of his behaviour.
Yeah. Well, if you look at it, Ukraine's going under the bus, isn't it? I mean, that's pretty obvious.
Well, as I was saying, he barged his way into a negotiation between Russia and Ukraine and is shutting Europe out. It's our blooming continent it's happening on. What's it got to do with Donald Trump? Yeah. But he's taken charge, and of course there won't be any officials in there when he and Rootin' Tootin' carve up Ukraine and take the oil and the coal and the wheat farms and whatever else it is that they can divvy up between themselves.
Yeah,
it's like we're being run by the mafia.
Absolutely.
He has actually said there is no way that Ukraine can join NATO.
Yeah,
and that is such a fundamental essence of this They need to join NATO to have any sort of guarantee that he isn't going to keep on going.
Right. And I think Europe needs to start its own army, and we need to get in there straight away because we cannot rely on America anymore. For the last 100 or so years, we have been relying on America. This sort of fantastical special relationship that we keep kidding ourselves still exists was forged over that period of time. But now Donald Trump has come in and he's just torn up 100 years of respect and cooperation. And it's like a mafia shakedown. Yeah, nice country. It would be a shame if anything happened to it.
I listen to the news behind the sofa now. I'm terrified.
That's not going to help, Jeff. The news will remain the same regardless of where you hear it from. But I wish you all the best. And while you're back there, give it a clean. Goodness sake. Thanks a lot, Jeff.
Leading Britain's conversation. Nick Abbot. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
Everything is going extremely well.
This text says, I watched Into the Wild on the recommendation of that drunk caller from yesterday's show. A film. Somebody had called in, so they'd seen a film called Into the Wild. He said, I echo his thoughts. It's a great film. Also, what's your favourite Pink Floyd album? If it is Animals, you are completely correct in every respect. No, it's not Animals. I mean, I love Animals, the album. I mean, I quite like some Animals, the Animals, but the album is quite an angry album. I mean, I can listen to it all day long, but it was released, I think, 1977 when punk was about, and there was a certain edginess in the air, and that was reflected on that album. It's a bit sharp. I mean, I love it, but I wouldn't say it was my favourite. If I had to pick one, I'd say Wish You Were Here. But I would be perfectly delighted with any of the albums from Meddle through to The Wall. And this says, on that subject, Peter says, hey Nick, I've got cerebral palsy and speech issues again tonight. I asked Siri to play LBC to hear your show, and the speaker said, Wish You Were Here by Pink Floyd now playing. Well, it could have been a lot worse than that, Peter, so be happy. York, hello, Jan.
Hello, Nick. How are you?
I am great, mate.
Very good. You know your books?
Yes.
Why don't you record them, bring them out as audio books?
No.
I think they do very well. Because we read them, and we can, imagine your voice reading them.
Right.
But it would be so much better if you were reading them.
But the problem is, I mean, okay, I understand that. People have said that to me a lot. Two problems. A, I don't know how to do that. I mean, I know how to self-publish a book in ebook form and paperback. That is relatively easy. It's not very easy. It's the website to do it hasn't changed in all the time that I've been printing these things, and it is quite a difficult thing to get around. They keep sending you emails saying, oh, the book format that you have chosen does not fit the pages that you have chosen. Can you really, go back and do it again? Oh, for crying out loud. Can't you just fix it for me? But they can't. And this time around, I ignored them and just resent the same thing, and they accepted it.
Oh.
So I think that they just automatically throw out complications for you. And if you don't address them, then those complications don't exist anymore. So that was infuriating. But I don't know how to do an audiobook. And
you could find out, though.
Yes. I guess the internet knows. But the other problem is that the back of the book is the A to Z. And you can't possibly expect me to sit there and read the A to Z to you.
Well, no, you could skip that bit.
Right.
Just, do the others, couldn't you?
I think that the A to Z, though, I mean, I know I've said this before, and I'm not self-aggrandizing. I do believe that the A to Z that I make every year is an historical document, because there isn't any other way of really determining what happened as far as sort of popular culture is concerned during a year, other than trawling through newspaper articles. I mean, how else would you do it? If you picked 2021, how would you find out what people were talking about that year?
Well, you wouldn't, would you? Because you just wouldn't remember anyway. You wouldn't remember what to think about, would you?
Right, yeah. People don't remember all of that stuff in the year that the A to Z was made. Never mind about a few years later. So
Yeah.
I mean, I know it sounds a bit silly, but I do believe that there is value, there is historical value in the books that, and it's not that I write, the bit before is just, my take on the year, but the A to Z itself, which is made with all the people that called during the Christmas period, I think that has historical value. I really do.
Definitely. But I do wish you would, consider doing the audiobooks.
Right.
I'm sure it'd go down really well.
Okay. Yeah, all right. Well, I'll think about it.
All right. One more thing.
And another thing.
Just one more thing. I've just thought about this while I was waiting. You know when Elon Musk brought his kid into the Oval Office the other day?
Yes.
If I'd have been Donald Trump, I would have said to him, do you mind taking that child outside? I don't want him in here.
Yes, exactly. And if it had been anybody else, then Donald Trump would not have allowed the child in the room in the first place, and neither would that person have had the nerve to bring the child into the room, and neither would that person have the nerve to show up to the Oval Office dressed in a T-shirt. When have you ever seen a male person in the Oval Office without a suit and a tie? Never.
What did he look like with that hat on as well?
What an absolute chump that man
What
is.
a jerk.
A jerk
Awful.
is the right answer. Yeah.
Yeah. And, I mean, Donald Trump was just sat there.
I know.
If I'd have been him, I would have said something. I really would.
He must have been absolutely fuming because his kid, Elon Musk, he has absolutely no control over that child. He was telling Donald Trump. Now, the internet was alive with what that kid was supposed to be telling Donald Trump. And the conclusion was that the child said to Donald Trump, "You're not the president. You should go away." That was one thing, and the other thing that he said was, "Shut your very bad word beginning with F mouth." The kid said that to Donald Trump, who just sat there and took it. And the only reason I can think of that he would do that is because of the money, honey. Because of the money.
Terrible. I couldn't believe it when I saw it.
No. I mean, that was the biggest, most obvious power play I've ever seen in that room. I mean, it was embarrassing. It was toe-curlingly embarrassing.
Yeah.
Somebody needs to have a word with him very strongly.
Definitely.
Yeah. All right. Thanks a lot, Jan.
All right.
Cheers, my dear. Ta-ra. This text says, if snow could be battered, Glaswegians would eat it. That would only be okay if it came from a Glaswegian, so I'll assume that it did. Tom says, hi, Nick, I can't take this Orange Maniac nonsense anymore. The only thing that frightens me more than him are his fans. Yeah, his fans, that's right. Those people. He said, Larry the cat has more brains than they do. Well, maybe we should give Larry the cat a go at it. Couldn't possibly be worse. You know, I was musing last night as to what his fans are going to do when they finally twig that they've been had, that none of the promises that Donald Trump has made to them are actually going to be fulfilled, and it's actually going in the opposite direction. He's going to pick the pockets of the middle class and the poor and give that money to the rich. All of the things that they rely on, because Donald Trump's fans, his base, they take more in benefits than did the people that voted for the Democrat side. They come from states that are more hooked on state benefits than states with Democrat voters. I think of the top 10 states that take the most in benefits, nine of them are Republican. And those are the people who are going to be hurt the most by, cutting Social Security and cutting Medicaid and Medicare and all of the things that they rely on. It hasn't filtered through yet, but it will. And I was wondering yesterday what's going to happen when they finally twig that they've been had. And I don't think they will. Because the same thing has happened in this country. Nigel Farage promised that Brexit would bring us all sorts of things. And it wasn't just Nigel Farage.
You could have cheaper food, clothing and footwear straight away.
Straight away. That was the message. And we were going to have £350 million more per week for the NHS, and we were going to close our borders and blah, blah, blah. And every single thing they promised has not come to pass. And what happened to the popularity? of the man who promised all that increased. So I think that we're at a place now where people will refuse to recognise that they've been had, that they've made a silly mistake, and they will double down and come out with things like, well, we hear it all the time. The reason that Brexit hasn't succeeded is because we didn't Brexit enough. It wasn't a hard enough Brexit. And so I think that's where we are as the human race now. We make a decision, turns out to be the wrong one, and we will never, ever, ever admit our mistake. We will just double down and make the mistake twice or 3 times if necessary. What a way to run a planet, eh?
Dreadful.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC. This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbott.
Okie dokie. I really like you. Do you like me?
OK, so this is a story that I mentioned some while ago. It's one of those Fury as stories. Fury as Labour taxes babies.
What?
Yeah. Pretty much every story that is not the weather starts with Fury as, and this tower of nothing at all to be furious about is as follows. Babies and toddlers are set to be hit with a tourist tax after the Labour-run Welsh Government rejected calls for an exemption. Labour! No! Babies and toddlers hit with a tourist tax after the Labour-run Welsh Government rejected calls for an exemption. Well, you know what? Those babies are just going to have to grow up and get a job. The £1.25 a night levy will apply to guests at hotels, B&Bs and self-catering accommodation in Wales under proposals by the government from 2027. That's what this Fury story is about. Trying to make you angry that a family of 4 will be spending £2.50 a night more for their holiday. £2.50. That's where we are. The right-wing press have been having a hissy fit you could see through concrete ever since their party lost the last election, and they've been flailing about trying to come up with something, anything, to make their readers angry at Labour for having won. And the latest outrage is that a break in Wales will, in 2 years, cost an extra £1.25 per child per day. The story says the tax will hit tourists staying in holiday hotspots. No, it won't hit anyone. It's so small that nobody will notice. What can you buy for £1.25? You couldn't get a cup of tea in a tourist hotspot for £1.25. You couldn't buy the Mail on Sunday for £1.25, in which you could have read about this furious outrage. Gareth Davis, a manager of an outdoor centre in Snowdonia, said he fears the levy will impact school children from deprived areas the most. He said, we have many schools from deprived areas, and I know even an increase of a couple of pounds will be significant. No, it won't. If an extra £1.25 is enough to tip a family over the edge, then they wouldn't be able to afford to go on holiday in the first place. A spokesman for the Welsh Government said it wants to ensure long-term sustainability to improve services for tourists and residents, which is good for tourists and residents and Wales. Because while £1.25 isn't much for a family, that added up over the 25 million nights that tourists spend in Wales every year amounts to 31 million quid. A tidy sum that can make a difference to a country after having been deprived of funding under the 14 years of austerity that we've just come through. Ain't that right, Bodge? Yes. Let's have Manchester. Stephen.
How you doing, mate? I'm that
thanks.
drunk from last night that I'm not sure what he's going on about, because imagine if I was sober. I wasn't drunk, by the way. I was inebriated.
Booze. Yes.
Booze, yes. Thank you, Carol. The thing is, imagine how much of a great film reviewer I would be, because did he not say he enjoyed it?
He did. What was the film again?
Into the Wild.
Into the Wild. How old is it?
And by the way, it's old.
Oh,
but the thing is, I was on hold anyway, so I've listened to this. I phoned you up to talk about Frederick Engels and Karl Marx. But all of a sudden,
I hope not.
We were talking about Karl Marx and all that, and then the next minute, I'm thinking, you're going on about Lost. Now, I'll tell you my Lost story. I jumped on a cast member of Lost in the Walkabout pub in Brighton, so I'm watching a United match with a couple of mates. I had a few scoops. I wasn't inebriated, though, for that guy that just didn't go.
Of course not.
And United scored. I was totally inebriated, yeah. And United scored and jumped up. I landed on this guy's foot and I turned round. This was 2001, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, it's that bloke from Hetty Wainthorpe Investigates. It was Dominic Monaghan. And I landed on his foot, mate. And I'm like 16 stone at that point, do you know what I mean?
Dominic Monaghan. I'm going to have to look up who that is.
He plays Merry in Lord of the Rings.
Well, there were so many people in Lord of the Rings. Oh, right, that bloke.
Yes, you know him. So anyway, I've jumped on his foot.
Uh-oh.
And he's apologised to me. And I'm going,
how British is that?
I've just, jumped on you. Sorry. So they were kind of... I'm not sure whether Billy Boyd was with him. I don't know, because I think they were filming Lord of the Rings at that time.
No, I'm going to have to look up Billy... I'm going to have to look up Billy Boyd now.
Yeah. So
Billy
2001,
Boyd.
I think that film came out, didn't it? Or 2002.
Right. I don't know who Billy Boyd is.
He's this little Scottish folk singer and actor and stuff. He's a great guy. Billy Boyd.
Well, you lost me at folk.
Anyway, so I've jumped on his foot, and he's apologised to me because United have scored, and we're all. And he's from Stockport, Dominic, and he's a mad red, so he didn't care. He scored.
Right. Yeah.
I think they're playing Arsenal or something like that. So anyway, I phoned you up to talk about communism. It doesn't work. So anyway,
no, I don't think it does. Well, it's never been tried. Not really.
Well, us Manx gave you communism because and by the way, I just had this not heated because I love the guy that we talked about. He goes, no, communism was invented in London. It wasn't. It was invented with Karl Marx and Frederick Engels at the Cheatham's Library, and you can actually go and sit at the table where they sat there. And it was all about.
Most certainly will do nothing of the sort.
But it was all about the slums of Manchester, like what they used to call Little Italy.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
No.
And there's still a little bit of Little Italy. It's horrible, mate.
There's a little bit of what?
There's still a little bit of Little Italy, which is basically behind.
That should be a roadside sobriety test. Can you say there's a little bit of Little Italy?
That guy that's accused me of being drunk.
Yeah.
Listen, we're educated up here in the north, boy.
Mm-hmm.
So, by the way, you liked the film as well, mate, didn't you?
Yeah, I think you're just about to offer him out into the car park.
No,
steady
not at
on.
all. No.
Don't do it, Stephen. It ain't worth it.
No, listen. The thing is, Cheatham's Library was where those two sat, Karl Marx and Frederick Engels. They came up with the Communist Manifesto, and it was all to do with the slums and equalising everything.
In Little
Google it, called Little Italy.
I'm not going to be doing that anytime soon. But thanks for the good advice there, Stephen. You said that before, and I said no. And furthermore,
No.
it's a no from me. But thanks. 0345 6060 973. This says, hi Nick, I normally agree with you on everything except NFL, it's great. No, it isn't. It's incredibly boring as a sport. I can't believe that it's actually a game, that people would spend time watching American football. It's just so excruciatingly dull. 10 seconds of action, and then they stand around talking about it for 5 minutes. And the reason that they talk about it for 5 minutes is because in America, they go for an advert break all the time. That's why the games last 4 hours. If they just played the game and kept going, it would take about an hour and a half. But it doesn't. It's 4 hours. It just goes on for what seems like ever. Terrible game. And the evidence for that is that they're the only country in the world that play it. And you could say the same for baseball, except I think the Japanese also play baseball. But, it's like baseball is an even worse version of cricket. if you can imagine that. Anyway, he says, I normally agree with you on everything except NFL, it's great. And why the hate for Streatham? My partner is from there. Well, as long as your partner doesn't get behind the wheel of a car, then that's okay. Tavistock. Hello, Rose.
Oh, hello, Nick.
Rose.
Well, I wish to express some annoyance with the vast arrogance of these...
You wish to register a complaint?
With Oh, and it's all so hideous. You've just got to laugh at the end, haven't you? You can't do anything else. The arrogance of these Americans.
Yeah.
And by that, of course, I don't mean all Americans, as you know. But, you wouldn't give it credence, would you, if you hadn't actually heard it with your own ears?
No.
I heard it on LBC, because that's virtually all I do, earlier on.
Yes.
What that Vance man was saying.
Oh,
I mean,
God,
how flipping dare he? How dare he start banging on about Europe? And as for banging on, I felt invaded, actually. But what is interesting, and what's happening all the time, it happens with the likes of Farage as well, is people who want to take and intend to take absolute power persuade the people that they want to have the power over that those people are already in an oppressive situation with limited freedom of speech.
Yes.
It happens all the time. You're not free. You haven't got freedom of speech.
Yeah.
It's the extreme right. They always project what they're about onto the status quo they want to overthrow.
I think it was it Goebbels? It was one of them who said, accuse the other side of that which you are guilty.
Oh, they actually said it.
Yeah,
Sorry, go on.
every
Yeah.
single thing that Donald Trump, and in that speech J.D. Vance said, but every single thing that Donald Trump says, every accusation that comes out of that man's mind, that man's mouth, is an admission of guilt.
Yes, exactly. And it's so sickening because some people they're taken in by it.
Well, the thing with the J.D. Vance speech was that he wasn't actually talking. This speech wasn't directed at his immediate audience. As with all politicians, when they go abroad, they are actually still speaking to their home audience. It was being the tough guy for the benefit of the fans back in America.
Right, yes, I see. Yes, I see what you mean there. Because another thing that gets to me, you see, is the way that we then obediently discuss it for the rest of the day. What this some sodding American has just said.
Yes.
Or, of course, what the mini-me Farage has just said.
Yeah.
But, this thing with people that are taken in by stuff, I keep thinking about this, and you used the word tyrant earlier. This line that comes in one of Hitler's biographers: how fortunate it is for tyrants that people do not think. Simple as that.
Well, Donald Trump put it like this.
I love the poorly educated.
I love the poorly educated, he said, to a crowd of poorly educated people, and they whooped and cheered like he was paying them a compliment.
Yeah, yes.
He loves us.
I know. And this ubiquity of the Farage, he's only got to say, I was just dropping off to sleep last night, and I suddenly thought he could be saying, oh dear, my shoelace is undone, and bend down to tie it up, and then the next day you'd have the news beginning with, Nigel Farage says his shoelace is undone. It's got that bonkers. But you see, he was put up as a candidate years and years ago by whoever it is what I've decided, who's ultimately in charge of news agenda in this country, because they could have put up Caroline Lucas. Then they'd have had charisma. They'd have had articulacy, they'd have had interesting, useful things to say, and they'd have had honesty.
A decent human being, yeah.
Yeah, honesty and good looks into the bargain. I mean, what could have been better? But no, nobody thought that would be a good idea.
What's extraordinary to me is that every single thing that Nigel Farage has done, you would think would turn people off. I mean, as an MEP, as far as I'm aware, he didn't do anything at all for his constituents, not a single solitary thing. He picked up his cheque and he filed his expenses. But other than that, I think he was the person who attended less voting than any other MEP in Parliament. He had the worst voting record, apart from one man who was in hospital. So he didn't do anything when he was an MEP for all the money that he was being paid. He doesn't appear to be doing much for the people of Clacton. I mean, if he's been there more than about 3 or 4 times for longer than 15 minutes, for longer than it takes to get a photo done, then I would be surprised. He spent more time in America than he has in Clacton. So at the very least, he is not the most assiduous MP that we have. And yet, the less that he does, and the less that his promises pan out, and the more that what he tells people is going to happen if you just follow me does not happen, and the more he associates himself with the super-rich, the more popular he is with the poor. It's absolutely mystifying.
Yeah, but that's partly... I mean, I take all that, obviously, but I think it's also partly because... for some reason, he is constantly shoved in front of people's faces.
Well, that is true. Yeah, he is our Trump in that regard.
Yeah, here you are. Look at this bloke. But did he not bequeath us? Alas, he's still there. But did he not bequeath us Brexit, knowing that it would ruin the economy and betting on this fact in order to make himself a lot of money? Is that not the case?
Well, I don't know whether he personally betted on it, but I would be surprised if he didn't know people who did. Because there is that famous photograph of him smiling and pointing to the pound tanking after the Brexit vote. So why would he be doing that?
And people still think he's good. I mean, that's absolutely disgusting.
Unless it was that photograph I've seen many, many times. Now, it is entirely possible it was photoshopped. I don't know. But there are a lot of people who woke up with, and the phrase was, gold in their mouths on the day after the referendum.
Yeah.
A lot of people with a lot of money bet that it would be bad for this country, and he was the architect of that decision. So, but all of the promises that he made, every single promise that was made about Brexit has failed to come true. And yet, people, just like Trump, everything that he promises fails to come true. And yet his fans say he tells it like it is, which to me indicates a degree of brainwashing that they should be personally alarmed at. But I guess the brainwashed don't know they're brainwashed, do they?
No, I think it's treachery, what he did, actually.
It certainly hasn't improved the lives of the people of this country. So,
indeed.
Call it what you like. All right, good to talk to you, Rose. Thanks for that.
Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Hello, boys.
0345 6060 973. This text says, you know, Nick, years ago you described licking your fingers before opening a plastic grocery bag, and what a disgusting thing you thought it was. You and I were in agreement, but last night you suggested we do not need straws and that we should wrap our lips around any glass presented. I can't agree. What we need is stainless steel straws, just like knives and forks that can be properly washed and sanitised. No straws, really, Nick, I mean really, says that furious messenger. Yeah. How would you wash a stainless steel straw, though? How would you get in there? I mean, you couldn't really put it in a washing machine, could you? Because how would the water get in there? So you'd have to, like if you were in a business, for instance, you'd have to be washing them all by hand with a tiny little bottle brush that could go all the way up there. I don't know. And the thing with straws like plastic straws in a big tub where you just help yourself, well, you don't delicately pick out the one straw, do you? You touch at least every single straw around the one that you're picking out. Oh. I had to lick my fingers last night. Awful.
Disgusting.
I was filling up the car with petrol. And not if it's raining, that's no problem. You know those plastic gloves that you can get so you don't get oil all over your hands? And if it's raining, it's no problem. You can just take a bit of water off the car and use that to, open them up at the proper end, which is always a bit difficult to find. Which is the end? But it wasn't, so I had to lick my fingers. Well, better than licking somebody else's fingers, I suppose, but only just. Oswestry, Cliff.
Oh, yes.
Yes,
Hello.
Cliff. Yes, Cliff. Let me say again.
Hello.
Yes, Cliff.
Hi, Nick. How are you?
I'm great, mate.
Yeah. No, actually, I'm sorry. You were just talking about straws, and I found that interesting. But the reason I was calling.
Did you find it energizing?
Oh, well, I actually would like to have some plastic straws for some experiments that I want to do, but hey, you can't get them anymore. At least I haven't found them. But
right.
No, the reason I called originally, and you had a woman call about Donald Trump, and she called him a jerk.
Yes.
And I think that was a bit too polite.
Right. That's not where I thought this was going.
Yeah. Well, actually, I was born in America.
No.
Yeah, and
you were born. You certainly weren't born in New York. You did not grow up in New York, did you? Because otherwise, you'd be speaking much quicker than you are at the moment. I'm saying somewhere in the South.
No.
Where? Montana.
Northwest.
Right, somewhere.
You're getting closer.
Somewhere where, like North Carolina, somewhere where there's no people but just cows. Where the pace of life is very, very slow.
Actually, I was born in the Seattle area.
Okay.
Yeah, but anyway, I just wanted to correct this woman. As far as I'm concerned, he is not a jerk. He is
worse
a lunatic.
A lunatic, right. A crazy person.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for letting us know, Cliff.
Yeah.
Okay. Just brought the show to an abrupt halt. It was kind of like one of those tests where you take your driving proficiency test. As soon as I tap the dashboard, I want you to slam the brakes of the car and skid to a crazy halt. Something like that. Darren in London says, you see the Independent online, Starmer and Labour are taking advice from an Ian Duncan Smith think tank about welfare cuts.
What?
No, I didn't see that. I was looking at the Independent today. I didn't see that. I don't believe you. Independent. They're probably going to ask me if I want to accept the cookies.
Oh, no.
Oh, can't bear it. Keir Starmer to join crisis summit over Russia's threat as... Oh, subscribe now. No, thank you. Keir Starmer to join crisis summit over Russia's threat as Zelensky calls for Army of Europe. We should have an Army of Europe. It's absolutely insane that we have our individual little armies with all of the lack of efficiency that involves. Let's see. It takes American rants and Ukrainian reality to wake up Europe. Mother and British couple manhunt. Millions face rail misery. MAGA influencer claims she had son with Elon Musk. Another one? Trump is desperate to look tough. Why Kemi Badenoch only has 15 months to save her leadership. You remember Kemi Badenoch, don't you?
No.
No, yeah, she used to be a thing. Disappeared without trace. I can't see any of this, any of what you just described. But I will look into it very strongly at great length. Anne says, "Hi, Nick. Last night you mentioned you hate the sound of leaf blowers. I had mine fixed today. When they tested it, they forgot to point it down and blew their cake across the table. The sound of my blower working was heavenly," says Anne. No, it's not. It's not heavenly. It's an absolute blooming nightmare. And I suppose, okay, after, let's say, 9 o'clock during the week, definitely not on a Saturday, and absolutely definitely in bold and underlined on a Sunday. No, 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 no.
No.
Down in London says, I just read that. "Hi, Nick. I used to be a massive fan, but listening to one of your old shows, I discovered you used the word poop. And now I think you should be on a list." That's acceptable, isn't it? I think that's okay. Well, if it isn't, I've just said it again. Again! And this says, "I've just returned from Canada and they have real snow. One day we had 3 feet in 24 hours and still the roads were cleared. We have 3 centimetres and the roads close. I also found out they do not want to be the 51st state. Canadians agree that Trump's a crank."
Oh, shut up!
Yeah. He is crank. If he's not a crank, then he is crank adjacent.
This is LBC with Nick Abbott.
Okie dokie.
Oh, I think I played that one already. We're doing repeats. 0345 6060 973. Have you heard about this advert for Albania? Well, I'll come to that in a minute, but first I must take this very important call in Sandbach from a person called John. John.
Hi, the lady you spoke earlier on about J.D. Vance. I watched that, him speaking to the audience.
Yeah.
And these aren't supposed to be your dickheads. These are all these diplomats and politicians.
Just to be clear, you said thickheads, didn't you? Say yes.
Yeah, it was thickheads, yeah.
Don't say
and they're all sat there. And he's insulted them. He's insulted the continent of Europe.
Yeah.
The Western allies and all that. And they just sit there.
Well, what are they supposed to do?
Get up there and say, "I don't go to your..." Get up, stand up. "I don't go to America and speak to you and tell you you're stupid."
Well, that's not Europe, though. Europeans aren't like that. We are, we're polite, and it was a room full of diplomats. They were being diplomatic. They do diplomatic for a living. But J.D. Vance was trying to be was trying to project the toughness of the new regime back to his audience in America. It wasn't really for them.
Or maybe if he did stand up and say that to him, maybe his toughness being projected back to America mightn't have been so tough.
Yeah, well, that is true, yeah. But, like I said, the politeness comes with the territory, unless you are an impolite, rude chump like J.D. Vance. Plus, it was lies. Everything the man said was not true. He accused Europe, or he went around many different countries and accused them of doing various things, none of which were actually true. I mean, I could sit here and fact-check them all for you, but I'm sure you can look it up later on the internet.
Internet? I'm on a flip phone.
A flip phone? Wow, it's like going back into time.
13 years old. You can forget internet as far as I'm concerned.
Keep hold of it, and I think those things will increase in value. I do.
Yeah.
I've got a phone that was round at one end, and how to describe it? And it didn't flip, and it didn't open. It twisted.
Oh.
Yeah, and I was the only person I ever saw with this phone, and it had a round screen and a sort of a long oval body, and it was in two halves, and the top completely twisted around the circle of the screen to open up to use as a phone. I'm convinced that has got to be worth something.
Oh, definitely will. Definitely will be in another couple of years or so.
Used to give me a right headache, though, using it as a phone. I mean, you could tell it was just boiling your brain when you were using it. So I don't miss that.
Yeah, well, I've been sat on. I've just phoned next to me here for about 40 odd minutes. My brain's frying.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, entirely my fault. Your medical bills can be sent to the following address. Have you got a pen?
No. Give us a break.
Yeah, apologies for that.
My brain's turned into a fried egg.
Yeah, a mush. Yeah.
Mush. Well, equal to Donald Trump, actually.
Yeah.
His brain's mush.
Right. Well, would you like to run a major country? Can you start on Monday?
Yeah, any day of the week.
All right, I'll pencil you in.
First, I've got to go to the tanning salon to make sure I get tanned up there.
Yeah, make sure you get the right shade. Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, good work. Thanks a lot, John. Ta-ra, 0345 6060 973. This text says, "Hi, Nick. Seeing as we're heading into World War III over stupid, can we get ahead of the game and start writing some hit wartime records like Vera Lynn had?" Well, somebody should be doing that, yeah. I mean, keeping the morale of the troops up. Somebody should be all over that. Clive in Sydney says, "I watched Don't Look Up last night, and it's like a documentary on today's world. Terrifying," says Clive. Yeah, it actually is, because we got that, I don't know if I actually gave detailed files about, I know I'm off mic at the moment, hang on a minute, because there was an asteroid headed our way. I mentioned it briefly, I think, the other day. I don't know if I really went into it. Hang on. One moment, please. I have detailed files. Maybe... there it is. I have in front of me a piece of paper. In fact, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 stories, of which the one I was looking for is the last one. Can you believe that?
Oh, fabulous.
NASA has warned the odds of a city-destroying asteroid hitting Earth have increased.
What?
According to NASA's Center for Near-Earth Object Studies, the odds of the asteroid 2024 YR4 colliding with our planet have crept up to 2.3%. Which means there's a 1 in 43 chance of the space rock colliding with Earth when it makes the closest path on December the 2nd, 2032, which is, years away. But not many. This asteroid was first spotted in late December by astronomers at the NASA-funded Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System Station in Chile. Blimey. Talk about a job title. Since then, it has leapt to the top of both NASA's and the European Space Agency's list of impact risks as the probability of an impact continues to increase. But as these are just scientists in possession of facts, nobody is remotely interested in anything they have to say. It's 2.3% now. A little while ago, they said it was 1.3%. The probability of this asteroid thing hitting Earth, 1.3%. Now it's almost doubled to 2.3%. And, that still doesn't really sound like very much, but if the aircraft you were about to board had a 2.3% chance of smashing into a mountain, you wouldn't get on it, would you? You'd do something about it. If the road you were about to cross came with a 2.3% chance of dying, unless you pressed the green man button, you press that button, right? An estimated diameter of 90 metres, the asteroid could do some serious damage should it hit Earth. Even if it hits in the sea and not on the Earth, it could do some serious damage because of the gigantic tsunami that would be created by it. It's 90 metres across. It would make it about the same size as the Tunguska asteroid, which unleashed a blast equivalent to 30 megatons of TNT, which doesn't sound like a real big lot of TNT, but only if you don't know anything about explosions. It's huge. It flattened 830 square miles, this thing, in, I think it was the early 20th century, something like that. 830 square miles. It would completely destroy any city on Earth. And what it would do to, Hull, well, cause tens of pounds of damage. And our plan is to cross our fingers and hope for the best. Our plan is that Donald Trump is going to sign an executive order that says it doesn't exist. Problem solved. I don't think we got a plan. We don't have a plan, and nobody has got a strategy.
There's no strategy. I have no strategy. There's zero strategy.
There's zero strategy. I mean, if we were going to intercept it, then we'd have to start right now. Anybody starting now?
No.
No, of course not. There's no money in it. so you can write America off. Donald Trump won't be made immediately richer by trying to avoid something that may not happen in 7 years' time. That's a bit alarming, ain't it? 7 years. Anyway, without giving too much away, that is more or less the synopsis of Don't Look Up, which you should watch because it's very, very good. And you could have a double header. Watch Don't Look Up and then watch Idiocracy. And I'd do it in that order because, you'll be having a drink during Don't Look Up, and by the time Idiocracy comes around,
booze,
then you'll be fully refreshed. I mean, it's a sillier film, for sure. And I would recommend a refreshing beverage just before you see it to steel yourself, because even more than Don't Look Up, Idiocracy is what is happening in the world right now. We are living through that film at the moment. Venki, Croydon.
Hey, Nick.
Yes, Venki.
I had 3 points to go through. I was in Florida. I just came back from Florida, actually.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the things you were talking earlier on about sort of Trump and what would happen with, what happened with sort of Elon Musk and everything like that. One of the funny aspects of all of this, funny and sort of scary aspects of all of this, is I caught a, cab, as you do, to go to the hotel. And I don't know, you must have seen this in America. Most, people are open with their, with their experiences. They just want to talk.
Yeah.
And this cab driver, lady cab driver, big fan of Trump. No clue. She's doing 3 jobs, and she's on the way there, and she's just telling me about how everything is going to be fantastic and wonderful, and the changes that Elon Musk is bringing in, and now how all of the the riches will flow to her. And I just sort of quietly asked her. I just said, "So where are you from?" And she's actually from Venezuela.
Oh, great. Well, she probably won't be there right now. She'll be on a bus out of there.
No idea. And the thing is, and I sort of realized the reason for this kind of the poorly educated bit is, you spend a bit of time watching TV over there, and the news is it's just opinion. Everything is opinion.
Right. Yeah.
Everything is opinion. There's no fact checking. I mean, we are bad, but they are really bad.
It's almost all right-wing opinion as well. Turn on the radio over there, and talk radio is king in America, but it's all right-wing talk radio, which is just the Trump talking points over and over and over again, and they just pound it into your brain again and again. So, I mean, advertising works. That's the nature of propaganda. If you tell people the same thing over and over again, if you tell them really big lies, they love to believe that stuff. And if you really want to get somebody to believe in, a conspiracy theory or some bat poop crazy idea, then the technique is to say, "Shh, don't tell anybody. This is a secret. You're not supposed to know this."
And it's, I couldn't believe the things that you were saying. And this woman is working 3 jobs.
Yeah.
And she just couldn't get it. And I had to explain to her that, Elon Musk has now got hold of your social security number.
Mm.
What that means is that everything and anything that you're doing in America that is linked to any sort of an ID, he will know. I mean, the one thing the guy is good at, I mean, other than sort of sleeping around and getting, innumerable children and naming them weird names.
Yeah.
Other than that, the other thing he's good at is he's good at big data. He's going to mine the hell out of that data. And if this goes on for next 1 year, you have no idea the kind of things that they can do to be able to sort of, restrict your benefits or restrict you, boarding onto a train. There's absolutely nothing that you can do about it.
Yep.
By the time I got down, I mean, it was like a 45-minute ride. And by the time I got down, I thought I had made a dent into her, hopefully into a sort of, the way that she was thinking.
Yeah.
But no. Nothing. I mean, she was still, same position, same thing. Yeah, no, it's going to be all fine, and it'll be fine.
She will pretty soon, I would imagine, be one of those people crying into their phones, making a little video about how Donald Trump is deporting their family or withholding their medical aid or whatever, or cancelling their benefits, and they. I mean, I've said this before. I said it yesterday numerous times. The reason that they're upset is because they voted for Donald Trump to be evil to other people. They thought that by voting for him, that would confer some sort of protection on them.
Yes. And I mean, the sort of one last point on this is there was a recent interview that came out on James Murdoch on in the Atlantic magazine.
Oh, yeah.
Now, obviously, Rupert Murdoch's son. And he basically laid the whole thing out. He said, none of this thing, we know it's not true. The whole thing around Brexit and Trump and all of that.
Yeah.
He said, we know it's not true, but it sells.
Yeah. It's money. That's all.
It's box office.
What's really, really weird, I mean, I'll never be one of those people, and I would be happy to be comfortably well off, but when you start talking about billions, then that just has absolutely no interest to me at all. Would I like to go around surrounded by security, constantly fearful that my family members are going to get abducted? To hell with all that. To be recognised in the street as somebody who's got an enormous amount of money and everybody that comes up to you is going to want something from you, that just seems like a living hell to me. But what I cannot get my head around is that people who are that rich seem to be solely concerned with getting richer. What's that about?
No idea. I mean, I obviously, I don't have millions, and I can't think of getting a billion and then billion into a billion. I mean, it's just unbelievable. Hey, Nick, I called you about 6 weeks ago, I think, saying that I'm going to be, I had turned a couple of the kids and my kids and basically some of the other ones to listen to your show. I've been putting the data together, by the way. They sent it around to their friends and their friends and friends, and I thought I should do like a professional job and find out what they were all thinking and do it properly in order.
That sounds kind of alarming, actually. Go on.
Just put it in order.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. The kids are okay. I think, they're fine. I mean, most of them, they were kind of in the range between 13 to sort of 17, 18.
I think the phrase is the kids are all right.
Rock and roll! The kids are all right. I think they're all right. They're fine. They all are by far, other than the sort of the cow noises and everything. The funny bit is they love your musical taste, by the way.
Wow.
Which is,
well,
I didn't.
I hate to blow my own trumpet, Venki, but I'm hip. I'm with it.
They love the musical taste. I think you should do like a rock and roll podcast or something. Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. It's a long time since I was a DJ. That's for sure. I haven't done that in a long time.
They love the musical taste. They think some of your callers who come in,
a little bit,
the regular callers, a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah.
And the last one was I turned them into your podcast that you do with that loopy lady.
Yeah, the loopy lady. Yeah, Carol McGiffin.
Oh, right.
That's the one.
Yeah.
That's the one. They actually think she's a character. I mean, I had like about 5 people who said, this can't be real. This must be a character. This must be like a... Who believes in this kind of thing? This can't be real. This must be a character.
She is real as real can be. Yeah.
Yeah, and I had to turn them out to, I had to show them sort of her Wikipedia page and all the rest of it. And said, look, there's a real person.
Yep,
it's not fake. That is a real person.
Yeah, she ain't fake news, that's for sure. Yeah. Well, Venki, congratulations for having got in a cab with a woman in Florida and telling her that her political views were wrong and living to tell the tale.
I know.
Very well done. Gotta go. Thanks a lot, mate.
This is LBC with Nick Abbott.
Shut up.
I can't. That is Carol McGiffin, by the way. I do a podcast with her called What Is Your Problem with Nick and Carol, in which the kooky Carol and I try to solve people's problems while laughing our faces off. Now, if you have a problem, a dilemma, something you've always wondered about, then send it to the unprofessionals at this address. nickandcarol@global.com. NICKANDCAROL @global.com, and prepare to be totally satisfied.
Yeah.
There's 300 up there, and I do believe that you will find it amusing. It is a right laugh. What's your problem with Nick and Carol? On an internet near you. Now then, let's have Glasgow. Hello, Paul.
Hi, Nick. I've got to pull the chap up earlier who said the diplomats didn't react to J.D. Vance. The next speaker up, I think it was a German foreign minister who put J.D. Vance back in his box.
Yeah, well, what the caller was saying was that he thought that they should have, invaded the stage and taken the microphone off him.
No, they did it the proper way. The German foreign minister did it the proper way.
Right.
He got up straight after Vance. The only people who clapped Vance were the 3 aides that he brought with him.
Yeah. And it did actually sound like 3 people clapping. That's true.
It was. The camera panned to them.
Oh, yeah.
And they quickly stopped when they realised nobody else was going to join in.
No one, yeah. I like the bit in the middle where J.D. Vance tried a joke and then waited for the laugh, which did not come.
Yeah. And as I say, the German foreign minister, he wasn't the only one.
No.
The Cypriot, the Greek and the French foreign ministers also ripped into him.
That's right. And Ursula von der Leyen, I think she had something to say. Yeah, and
the guy was proven to be the idiot that he is.
Well, he's just got... The regime in general have just got no class. Zero class. I mean, they're the kind of people that you would put a notice outside of a pub saying these people are not are banned from this establishment. They're just... I mean, you wouldn't want neighbours like any of them.
As we say in Scotland, a village is missing its idiot.
It's idiot, yeah.
And America has found both of them.
Yeah. They've got no end of them there. No end.
Because you've got the orange bandit, as in Trump, and you've got the eyeshadow V.D. Vance.
What is that about? I mean, it looks like he's about to give one of those drag time story hour readings.
I think he went to drag school and they forgot to teach him how to put the rest of the makeup on.
The rest of it on, yeah. He only stayed for that one lesson, yeah, doing your eyes. Yeah, that's very, very odd. I mean, what a weird-looking guy.
Well, his eyes are very sunken as it is, and this eyeshadow that he puts on makes him even more.
It just looks so bizarre. He kind of looks like one of those dolls that you see in a horror film, that you wake up and it's at the end of your bed staring at you.
Well, my grandson, he summed him up because he just watched a very old DVD that we got of Dick Dastardly.
Oh.
And then I watched that.
Yeah.
And my grandson, who's 6 years old, thought that J.D. Vance was Dick Dastardly.
Not Muttley, Dick Dastardly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
because
what does
of the
that
sunken eyes.
Right. What does that make Trump then?
Trump,
Penelope Pitstop.
That she's got more common sense.
Yeah, and a really nice car.
Did you see the other thing Trump did after the Super Bowl? He cancelled the penny.
Yes.
And the Blues, I think the red state that makes the pennies, he immediately put them all out of work because the main industry in that little town is where they mint the pennies.
I didn't know that. I mean, I knew that he cancelled pennies, and at the time I thought, well, that isn't completely insane. Actually, what's the point of a penny? But I didn't know that he'd stiffed his own supporters, but that doesn't surprise me at all.
I think it's in Colorado. It's a small town in Colorado.
Right.
It's got a population of about 300 or 400.
Yeah.
But the only employer in that town is that mint.
Well,
I want put them all on the dole.
On the dole, yeah. Well, and then it's probably about to take the dole off them because that's got to be next on the list. Yeah. All right. Thanks for the good news, Paul. Cheers, mate. 0345 6060 973. Gupta texts. Peter Mandelson on Monday is going to be the UK ambassador to the US. Don't worry, he'll take care of Mr. Trump. Take care? What, you mean? Probably not, no. Ree says, just a quick fact for you. If you look at the Dulux colour chart, Trump's face matches the shade treacle tart.
Oh, shut up!
Treacle tart. 0345 6060 973. Oh, I want to talk about Albania. Have you seen the advert? Hang on.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC. This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbott.
This guy is sick. There's something wrong with this guy.
You've got a good, your mind is a little bit, you know what I mean, three-dimensional.
No, I have no idea what you mean. I want to talk about Albania in a moment. This says, hello, Nick. Have you noticed that Trump's presidency has been followed around by a TV crew, reality show style? If ratings drop, will he get axed? Well, I wouldn't be remotely surprised if he was getting a TV crew to follow him around to do a documentary about how huge and tremendous and great he is. In fact, I'd be surprised if he wasn't doing that. And then he'll sell it on video form or download to his MAGA fans. $59, no refunds. This says Trump wants the UK and the EU to raise defence spending to 5% of GDP.
What?
Yeah, 5%. No chance. He says the increased spending will obviously benefit the big US defence manufacturers. Also, now Trump wants to access Ukraine's rare earth minerals, a win-win for the US economy. Yeah, well, he could care less about the US economy. If he cared about the US economy, then he wouldn't be entering into a tariff war with the rest of the world. But I would imagine that he personally wants to access Ukraine's rare earth minerals. It'll be a win-win for Donald Trump. Yeah, no. And as for the increasing the defence spending, well, he's already said it out loud, hasn't he? It is like a mafia shakedown. Everything that comes out of that man's mouth does sound like he's a bit part character in The Sopranos. And he said, wouldn't it be nice if you spent a lot of money with the American defence industry? We want you to increase the amount of money you spend on bombs and bullets, but we're going to tell you where you should spend it. You know, as part of our interest in freedom. And what blows my mind is that people who are banging on about patriotism in this country and say, Brexit was all about freedom and sovereignty is very, very important to them, sovereignty, and they can't wait for somebody from another country to tell us how to live. Explain that to me, I double dare you. Peterborough. Hello, Elaine.
Oh, hello, Dick. How are you?
Elaine, I'm great, mate.
Oh, do you know, there's so many things I wanted to talk to you about, but have you seen the show on Channel 4 called The Top Guns?
No.
You must get it on your list, because I was telling everybody that's skint in the office, you know your little machine gun? What it is, RAF Conisbee have got all of our Typhoon jets, okay? And where you're on about our defence, at the moment, we've got our Romanian RAF boys patrolling one part. We've got them out in Cyprus patrolling the other lunatics, and then we've got them out in Estonia. It's half shared, the hangar between the Germans and they have these things. Well, it's absolutely hilarious because, you know, we've got all of our Brits, and they are the best in the world, all of our servicemen. Well, they're getting up, and then all of a sudden, I don't care what the Americans say.
That is a bit of a statement, but okay, go on.
They can just do on the Americans. I've had it with them.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, they're up in this jet, and there's this guy just minding his own business, guarding our surveillance thing from Waddington, and then all of a sudden there's this Russian jet behind him, and he's going, Ebony, Ivory, you're crossing, because they're like near the Crimea, we're deliberately gaining intelligence, but it's the fact that they turn around and say, if you don't leave, you will be deleted.
Deleted?
Yes.
As
You've
in,
got to watch it.
As in terminated?
Affirmative.
Yes. Wow. So you've got to watch it because it's hilarious. And they go, and you get so much respect for our boys and girls out there. And then they go and they have these hangar races where in Estonia, the Brits are beating the Germans at the moment, who can get out in the Typhoons quickest. So that's quite entertaining.
Well,
and then
as long as they're having fun.
Oh no, they're doing a grand job for us.
Right.
But it's like as soon as they take off, one of the Typhoons wasn't working properly, and they had to do this emergency. Can we have another Typhoon? Because we've got to have two to get up there, and it's hilarious. And there they are, all these pilots. But anyway, they're doing a grand job. And as they're getting in and they're going, and all the things, they're going, woohoo, come on, boys, let's show them how it works. And, you know, Tom Cruise has got nothing. You've got to watch it. If you want humour.
Okay.
I know you don't like homework.
No, I don't.
But you're going to do it.
All right.
So if you want humour.
It's called?
Top Guns. Channel 4.
Top Gun. Well, that's something I can remember. Yeah, Top Guns on Channel 4. Right.
Yeah, and there's a series. And if you go into straight away, Series 2, that is the one where, honestly, I was addicted.
Right.
I'm now on to all of those.
Well,
but that's
you
not
have.
why I was ringing you.
Oh, there's more.
There is more. I've been waiting.
I know you have. Yeah.
Ages talking to your lovely. I thought I got the wrong number. He's lovely, your guy in the cupboard, isn't he?
Well, let's not get carried away.
Well, anyway, you were saying, because I've been listening to the show, always listen to the show.
Yeah.
Now, you know, RAF Scampton used to be the home of the Red Arrows, and we shut it down, and it's all, no more.
I'm not very familiar with it, but go on.
This is my thing. I think I'm not in charge, but if I was, I'd get Zelensky, and I'd say to him, right, we're going to give you, any of your guys, bring your army, we'll set you up there. I mean, if McDonald's can get a prefab up in 2 weeks, you watch our army boys. We could get them all decorated, put all their homes, it wouldn't take any of our homes. We could train the army, his army, in this country. Because was it on your show last week, you were saying how the subscription, how the youngsters won't fight for our country?
Well,
if it was between our youngsters or the Ukrainians, I think we've got to take them all in. We've got to take them in.
What, for our protection, you mean?
Absolutely,
right.
Because we've got our Top Guns out.
Yeah.
Doing, you know, they're the youngsters, they're trained,
I don't,
and they're in our Typhoon jet.
I mean, I know we're in crazy times, but I don't think we're about to get invaded. So you can stand. You can stand down, Elaine. Yeah. Okay.
We've got to train them, Nick.
Yes, you do. You most certainly do. Yeah. Okay. All right. Thanks for the swerve there, Elaine. Top Guns, Channel 4. I'll put it on my list. Another TV news, Eva says, Nick, I've been watching a 4-part Netflix series about Donald Trump recently. Oh, my God. Really? Haven't you got enough Donald Trump in your life? You're seeking out more? I've been watching a 4-part Netflix series about Donald Trump recently, says Eva, and there is a scene where his mother kind of weirdly, proudly recalled a time when a young Donald wanted to play with his brother's toys, but did not want to share his own, and made a racket about it. Apparently his brother was very kind and willing to share his toys, but Donnie apparently decided to glue his brother's bricks together with his own so that his brother would lose them. He was a little sod even then. And these days he's gluing he's gluing toupees instead of bricks.
I don't wear a toupee.
Yeah, apparently not. If you believe that. Yeah, everything I've ever seen of Donald Trump just confirms my idea that he's just one of the worst human beings that's ever lived. This text says, Trump is whining about crime in Europe, and yet the second worst school shooting happened in his first term, and he said he would have entered the school unarmed to tackle the gunman. Yeah, sure you would, Donnie. He would have said that he would do that, but then he'd produce a note from his doctor saying he's got sore heels. So, unfortunately, on this occasion, he's going to have to sit it out. I want to talk about Albania in a minute, but first, here's a call in Plymouth. Julie.
Hello, Nick. You well?
Yes, very well, thanks.
You sound good. Now, I was wanting to talk to you about this call from Zelensky of the European Army. And I remember hearing that Hesketh character, the person who has very little knowledge of anything, who's Secretary of Defence.
Yeah, in charge of the military. What could possibly go wrong?
I know. I think it'd be like putting you in charge of the exchequer with your counting up.
And this Hesketh guy, he has a history of drunkenness, and that is on record.
Womanising.
And being abusive and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
And he said that he would not take another drink if he were made the Secretary of Defence. And yet, in answering questions from journalists, there's videos of him taking what looks like sips of whiskey while he's taking questions from journalists. I mean,
like Dave Allen doing his set.
Exactly that. Yeah, it's a shot. It's not a shot glass. It's a what do they call them?
Tumbler.
It's a small tumbler. Yeah, with about an inch of brown liquid in it. And the way he licks his lips as he's about to put it to his mouth, it looks as though he's steeling himself for a shot of spirits rather than Coca-Cola or something like that. Because nobody takes a sip of Coca-Cola the way they take a sip of whiskey. It's totally different.
No, it is totally different. And you'd have it in a different glass and a different amount.
Yeah.
And,
I think he was drinking whiskey while taking questions from journalists. I couldn't believe it.
I'm glad no one followed him into the toilet, because you need to check the top of the cistern.
I tell you what, I'll add a film to the films that we're living through at the moment. There's Idiocracy, there's Don't Look Up, but there's also Dr. Strangelove.
Yes.
Because the part of the story of Dr. Strangelove is that the Americans are trying to call the Russian ambassador to try to tell him that they have a rogue plane going to Russia to... spoiler alert. Warning. There's a rogue plane that they can't get in touch with that has been sent to drop a nuclear bomb, but they just found out that any nuclear explosion on Earth would trigger this doomsday device that would obliterate all life on Earth, and but the Russians had kept it secret. And it's like, why did you keep something secret like that when the whole point of a doomsday device is that everybody knows that it exists? But anyway, the Russian ambassador is drunk, so he can't come to the phone. And when he does, it doesn't make any sense. So I think that it's the other way around. The Russians are going to be calling up the Secretary of Defence, and he's going to be drunk.
Exactly. And there's going to be loads of sales of Tipex, because MAGA hats are going to have to... It's going to be quite easy to turn that second A into an N for Make NATO Great Again. So there's going to be everyone's going to be buying Tipex. It's going to be sold out everywhere. People won't want to buy a new hat, and the village people could have to learn a new routine for the end. Make NATO great again.
I don't really understand the spelling that you've just done. The second N.
So yes, MAGA, make America great again.
Yeah.
This Hellsgeth guy said, make NATO great again in his speech. So we're going to have to get some Tipex, turn that second A into an N for NATO.
Right, no, the first A, because that would be...
first A, sorry, yes, the second letter, sorry, the first A.
Magan, not Mnunga. No. What you want is Mnunga.
Thank you. Yeah. Do not put me in charge of literacy.
Okay.
You're not in charge of maths, and I'm not in charge of literacy.
Wow, that's just offensive. Sorry, that is offensive.
Oh, I didn't mean it, no. Yeah. But also, there's we can get a European army just by throwing out Russia and America from NATO. And we've got our European army all sorted with the Canadians and Australians.
Yeah, you can't do that, unfortunately.
No, why not?
It's an interesting idea. All right, keep thinking, Julia. Let me know if anything else occurs to you. Promise me you'll do that.
Leading Britain's conversation. Nick Abbott. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
What in places goes on inside that head of yours?
Speaking of nuclear, by the way, Trump administration officials fired more than 300 staffers Thursday last at the National Nuclear Security Administration, the agency that is tasked with managing the nation's nuclear stockpile.
What?
But it's worse than that. They barged in and fired people without knowing what it was that they did in an agency called the National Nuclear Security Administration. They just bowled in and said, you're fired, and you're fired, and you're fired, and you're fired, and you're fired, without knowing what they did. In a place called the National Nuclear Security Administration. I mean, I'm not a registered self-confessed genius like Elon Musk. I'm not even as smart as his nose-picking kid. But even I know not to fire people whose job it is to make sure nuclear weapons are kept safe. Sources said that Elon Musk's teenage henchboys did not seem to know this agency oversees America's nuclear weapons. It's literally called the National Nuclear Security Administration. So they fired first and asked questions later. Or rather, later they were told that those people that they showed the door were actually quite important if you didn't want a bang that would blow the wig off a president thousands of miles away. And so they unfired those people while admitting no wrongdoing, of course. You know, no loss of face. They'd rather we all die rather than they admit that they're wrong. And some of the fired employees included the National Nuclear Security Administration staff who were on the ground at facilities where nuclear weapons are built. Those staff that were fired oversee contractors who build nuclear weapons. They inspect nuclear weapons. And the Trump organization said, we don't need inspections. Inspections are woke. Let the contractors inspect themselves. More profits from less red tape. What could possibly go wrong? It also included employees at the National Nuclear Security Administration headquarters who write requirements and guidelines for contractors who build nuclear weapons. We don't need no stinking guidelines. Let God be your guideline. We can pray the danger away. A source told CNN they believe that these individuals were fired because, quotes, no one has taken any time to understand what we do and the importance of our work to the nation's national security. Correct, Amundo. That's the plan. Not to have one. Just barge in and fire everyone, give the money saved to Elon Musk and Donald Trump, and then hope by some magical process the organizations recreate themselves into something that works better and more efficiently, you know, like Twitter. I mean, Twitter is an example that Elon Musk seems to be following. He took a well-functioning entity, barged in, fired almost everyone, made it a toxic shadow of its former self, and it lost 80% of its value. 80. But, no biggie. It's not like we need nuclear experts anymore. It's not like Vladimir Putin is bombing the nuclear plant at Chernobyl or anything. Why would we need experts when we can get a hat reading "Make America Radiate Again"? We're doomed. Put your affairs in order. Streatham. Michael.
Well, good morning, Nick.
Yes, sir.
I phoned earlier when you were talking about Donald Trump, but I also caught the conversation when you were speaking about Pink Floyd.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm a professional musician. And what do you think about Dark Side of the Moon?
I think Dark Side of the Moon is probably the best album ever made.
Absolutely. And that solo where the female artist sings, I did a piano version of it. That solo is one of the most emotional performances that any female artist has ever done.
It's a remarkable achievement. Apparently, she came in and she did it in one take.
Absolutely.
And they, as far as I'm aware, they paid her just the fee for the session.
Yes, I saw her in an interview speaking about it, and she was very cold speaking about that.
Wow, I can imagine, because it's one of, if not the biggest selling album of all time. It must be one of the top 3 biggest selling albums of all times. And she created that track. I mean, Rick Wright has got keyboards on the back of it, but the it of it is her. And that they didn't put her name as the co-writer on that album is an absolute...
Well, they didn't credit her
it's
on
an absolute...
the album.
Well, no, they did credit her. Her name her name is on the album, but she wasn't credited as a writer of the track, which I think is an absolute disgrace. But
Indeed.
I think they relented eventually and gave her a relatively small amount of money, which, it was a life-changing amount of money, but in the scheme of things, as far as how many copies of that album have been sold, probably not her due.
Yes, indeed. She's understated, to say the least. But also, with regards to Donald Trump, what fascinates me, I've been a church organist for 40 years now, so I'm used to being with Christian people, Nick. And I've spent time in America as well. What fascinates me is one of the biggest selling T-shirts for Trump and his rallies was, "Jesus is my savior, Trump is my president."
Yeah.
And how these people can marry Trump and Jesus Christ on the same T-shirt together.
Well, it's not just on the same T-shirt. They fervently believe that Donald Trump has been sent by God to save them. That's what they believe. And my religious belief is that those people are phonies. They do not believe in the teachings of Jesus, because every action that they take is the opposite of that which Jesus would take in a similar circumstance.
Love your neighbor. I mean, Jesus himself apparently came as a refugee.
Right.
To be born, and then when nobody would take him.
Right. I don't know much about religion, but my take of Jesus is that he was a decent human being who cared about others. But these days, your American religionists would think that very idea is woke.
Well, actually, I was watching some right-wing Christians speak about why they support Trump. And they say that God has put him as an imperfect human being on the planet.
Yeah, right, sure.
But they don't give the same credence to the imperfections of Biden.
Of anybody else. Anyone else, yeah.
So why does Trump get a pass?
They're phonies. He legitimizes their hate, and he is going to make their dreams come true. He's already started the abortion thing, and then now he's all about attacking gays and the LGBTQ plus community and all of that. And so he's just, pandering to their hatred. And, I'm no expert, but I don't think Jesus was about hatred. I think it was more about love.
Well, did he say turn the other cheek?
Yeah, he did.
Love your neighbour, have no enemies.
Yeah, all that stuff. You are more familiar with all that than me, but I think that I've got the it of it, that it was more about love than hate. But those people are more about hate than love. They're not religious. They're using religion as a weapon.
Well, as a vehicle for their own dysfunction in life. I mean, it must be fascinating for them and very comforting for them to know that there's another liar in the world. And so I swear to you, I think what's happening is that these people go through their lives dysfunctionally, and at last there's a person in the White House that is dysfunctional, so they can relate
just
to
like
him
them.
and finally find their home.
Right. They don't follow Jesus. It's the opposite of that. They want Jesus to follow them, and they think that by talking about him a lot, mentioning his name and summoning him by speaking in tongues and all that nonsense that they do, they think that if Jesus follows them, then it legitimizes their irreligious hatred, their the way that they despise anybody who does not look, talk, walk and squawk exactly like they do. So they're not following Jesus, they want Jesus to follow them, which I don't think is what Christianity is all about.
Indeed, they have a model of the world, and they have been desperate for a long time for a dysfunctional person in the White House whom they can relate to. And they can see themselves in him.
Right.
And now they finally have it. So God help us all, because you know what they say, Nick? When America sneezes, we all get a cold.
Yes.
And it's happening.
Yeah, and they put RFK Jr. in charge of health.
Oh, no. Oh, dear God in heaven. Pardon the pun.
Right. Well, this is the last topic for conversation I thought I was going to be having on this show, but I appreciate the call. Thanks a lot, Michael. Yeah, I want to talk about Albania, but God, there's so much. I have literally 20 stories about what's happening in America at the moment, but I haven't had time to get around to any of them yet. But the health thing, good grief. I mean, I mentioned before that I hope your affairs are in order. If after hearing this, you would probably want to call your solicitor to make doubly sure. I don't have time before the news, but I might get into it afterwards. 0345 6060 973. Ian in Falmouth says, "Hi Nick, Agent Orange might think he can do without allies. How did they do in Afghanistan and Iraq and Syria, etc.? Or, well, any of the wars that they have been almost permanently in since the Second World War, which they arrived too late and a dollar short. America has never won a war, apart from the Civil War, and they could hardly lose that because they were fighting themselves. America's never won a war. Not one that they had to fight themselves anyway. I mean, Europe and Russia particularly won the Second World War. They barely showed up. I mean, they dropped the big one and then another one after that, which was kind of unnecessary, but they just wanted to see, compare and contrast the difference between one type of nuclear weapon and another. It seems like a pretty unpleasant thing to do to me, but, okay. But they've never won a war. I mentioned that in relation to nothing at all. I mean, but this person, John in Chorleywood, says, Nick, have you noticed that nobody's talking about World War III since Donald Trump was re-elected? Funny that, eh? Says John in Chorleywood, who is presumably trying to impress us with that fact. I don't think you're right there, John. People have been talking about World War III quite a lot. It's just that for most of the time we've been sitting here stunned with our mouths open, not quite being able to believe what's coming out of America at the moment. Funny that, eh?
Nick Abbot on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Are you trying to be funny? Because I'm all out of laughs.
No, there's nothing funny about it. Ronnie in Wolves texts, I have a question. America have been paying loads of cash into NATO for all this time. What, if anything, did they get in return from Europe? They must have got something, just wondering, says Ronnie in Wolves. Ronnie, they got a stable and peaceful market in which to sell their goods. Obvs. Tom says, I voted Brexit, and when the referendum result came in, I celebrated all night and all day. I'm embarrassed to say that I was stitched up by a frog-faced gas bag. That's not my words, that's his. He said, if a Brexiter tells you that Brexit was a good idea, they're lying. How's Brexit going?
Brexit's going great.
That's a lie. He's lying. Text from Judy, a Brit in Connecticut in USA. Says, I believe that Musk owns Trump, not the other way around. Well, everybody believes that, Judy. Musk owns Trump. She says, so he couldn't stop the annoying kid joining the press conference. I think that Musk knows everything. He tech-rigged the election, so he can never be fired in case he spills the beans. The only alternative will be a high-rise vacation with faulty windows. Yeah, I would be surprised if that did not happen. Because Donald Trump said it out loud. And the thing with Trump and somebody as rich as Musk is that nothing they've ever said or done has come with consequences. I mean, Musk is so rich that he could do anything, essentially, and just throw up a wall of money and to prevent anything from blowing back at him. And Donald Trump has never had negative consequence from anything he's ever said or done, which gives you a certain freedom. And so he tells you what he's going to do, or indeed what he has done. And he said multiple times, you only have to vote this time, he said to an audience of phony Christians. He said, you only have to vote this time, my beautiful Christians, because we're going to have it fixed and you won't have to vote again. Well, what does that mean? If it doesn't mean that he hasn't fixed it, then people won't have to vote again. He's going to win the next time. And Elon Musk knew 4 hours in one of the tightest elections that has ever been held, as far as the number of votes are concerned. He knew 4 hours before anybody else that Trump had won, because he was speaking to that podcaster, Joe Rogan. And he got up, and Joe Rogan said he got up, he looked at his phone, he said, right, he's won, I'm off. 4 hours before anybody else knew. And then Donald Trump said, thanks to Elon Musk, he did a great job. Nobody knows more about vote counting machines than he does. What's that mean? But because the Democrats lost, they would rather lose than make a fuss, as opposed to the Republicans, who would rather make a fuss than lose. And that's why they keep losing again and again and again. And that's why in this country the Conservatives have held power for about twice as long as the Labour Party since the Second World War. Because the Tories would rather make a fuss than lose, and the left would rather lose than make a fuss. Liz in London says, hi, Nick, to be honest, it's also appalling. Well, that is true. He says, talking about the child in the Oval Office, I mean, it really is an extraordinary example of a power play. You show up for work in the world's most famous and important office where everybody else, every male person who has ever been in there has been in a suit and a tie. And he shows up in a baseball cap and a T-shirt with his kid in tow, Elon Musk. And his kid is climbing all over him and he's got him on his shoulders. It's like a play date. And Donald Trump's just sitting there taking it. When have you ever seen Donald Trump in a room where he talks less than anybody else? Where he looks like some old geezer just who happens to have wandered in and sat behind the desk. Who is this guy? Apparently he's the president of the United States of America, or at least he thinks he is. Anyway, Liz in London says, to be honest, it's also appalling. And the child must have heard what he said to Trump before, probably from his father. Yes, exactly. He said, on another matter, President Zelensky also walks around in a sweatshirt. I don't know if he went to the Oval Office, but I've never seen him properly dressed anywhere. Here included, which unfortunately does show a lack of respect. Like going to a wedding in a hoodie and a woolly hat. Well, he is at war. Give him a break. I mean, it must be difficult getting your suit pressed when you got bombs falling on you. Keith says, AI will read your audio ebooks for you so you don't have to. It'll even use your voice. It'll even give you different accents if you wish. Imagine you as a Geordie, Scouse, Essexer or Nigerian. I'm buying it, he said. Please have it on my podcast by 9 a.m. Monday morning. Really? I don't even have to do it. It can do it for me. Blimey. Technology, eh? And this says, hi, Nick and Jan, the caller that was asking me to read my books instead of just put them out as something that you have to read with your own eyeballs, moving them back and forward. I know. What a nightmare. Says, regarding audiobooks, I would suggest and love watching you on YouTube reading your book. Viewers can put it into chapters. I'll do it. You could ask for a super chat donation or adverts and direct people to the book sales. We'd love it, says that anonymous texter, to which I would say no. And furthermore... No. No, it's a no from me. And this says, Animals by Pink Floyd only has 5 tracks. If I'd have bought that, it would have made me angry. I do remember buying that album as a school child. And, I mean, the cover is just fantastic, isn't it? And it was a gatefold cover. And I opened it up on the bus on the way home. And I remember pulling the record out of the sleeve and seeing how the tracks were arranged on the record. And it just was so exciting to see this tiny little track to begin with, and then the whole of the rest of the side was one track. And I just couldn't wait to get off the bus to see what on earth that would be. Marvellous. And you tell that to the kids today, and they won't believe you. Or actually they will, because they're all about vinyl these days, aren't they? Seems like a bit of a pose to me, but what do I know? Plumstead. Hello, Tom.
Yes, Nick, I've been listening to you all night, and I finally rang you. I just back from America.
Oh, yeah?
I went on a golfing trip.
Oh.
I was in Palm Beach on a Donald Trump golf course, international.
Really?
And because everywhere you play golf in America, they're not poor people. Everybody can afford it. But the caddy said to me, it's a joke. He said, Donald Trump was there last week. He turned up. He said, where's all the caddies? He said, you deported them all, sir. Oh, that was funny.
Yeah, they're all gone.
Yeah, but the other thing is, Palm Springs was lovely, but everywhere I went, I think all the food was dearer in the big supermarkets compared with our supermarkets.
Really?
Everything was dear, and I spoke to a couple of Americans there. They said it's all gone up the last few weeks.
Yeah.
Price of food and things you need, you know.
Well, it was the stated reason why those that did voted for Trump, because Joe Biden had made their food more expensive.
Yeah, well, in that Donald Trump course at Palm Beach, as you go in the lobby, he's got a 4-foot square portrait of him holding his fist. So I was mentioned there everywhere. You must have a massive publicity machine, I think, you know. Yeah. And there's a couple of newspapers here and a couple of Americans sitting there, and I looked at the paper. I couldn't make out what it was about. He said, that's a Trump paper, all about Trump, he said, the newspaper.
No.
In the lobby. Yeah.
He's got his own newspaper about him.
No, he did not his name on it. The news was about Trump.
Oh, right. Yeah, well.
Nothing about it.
There and here.
I said to him, there was a young couple, and I said to him, are you a Trump person? He said, well, I voted Trump. He said, because there was no one else. The other person was idiots, he said. That's all. But there again, if you're playing golf in America, on golf courses, the cost of a fortune, you're not going to meet poor people, are you?
No.
The only poor people I see, eventually I played at Pebble Beach, which is a lovely course, and I moved up to San Francisco, and all the the drug addicts, they're all laying curled up on the pavements everywhere. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, not on a golf course, though.
No, not on a golf course, no, in the town.
Right.
No, in the town, yeah. So, I wonder what you do about them, I don't know.
Well, no, me neither. But that was...
I went to Hollywood, and that's a mess as well, in Los Angeles. I didn't think... around all the posh streets are lovely, but in the actual town, Hollywood itself, that was a bit of a mess. All you see is Donald Trump hats for sale, T-shirts for sale.
Really? I'm surprised about that, because California, I mean, there are parts of California that are Trump, but L.A. isn't one of those places, so I'm kind of surprised about that.
Yeah. Another thing, there's a lot of shops closing down as well. Look, you know, when you see the shops here, they're all at least up for sale. And the biggest one was closed down. It was Bloomingdale's. Which
really?
It's so big. It's as big as a Las Vegas casino. You know?
That's a huge department store, sort of upscale department store in America.
Yeah, I don't know what to do with it. It's so big. It's so massive. Can't describe how big it is.
Well, I mean, that's department stores all over. Unless they're the really, really top of the line ones, like Selfridges and Harrods, they're having a really bad time, and they're all closing down because people don't do that anymore.
Oh, the prices in that Bloomingdale's, they were like Selfridges, ever so dear. You know, you can buy stuff everywhere, you know.
Huh. I remember the first time I went to America, I could not believe it. It was like they were giving everything away for free. And the dollar was about $2.50. You got $2.50 to the pound.
Oh, yeah, that's good, yeah.
Or almost $3, I think. And and back then, everything in America was cheap to start with anyway.
Yeah.
And, it was like, I can afford things. I couldn't believe it.
The only thing I see was cheap over there was petrol.
Petrol, yeah.
And cars, lease of cars, very cheap, leasing cars. But the size of them roads over there, you need a car everywhere. Everyone needs a car.
Yeah, Los Angeles, nobody walks in L.A. In fact, last time I was in L.A., there was a song that was on constant rotation on the radio called Nobody Walks in L.A. Quite a good track, actually. Thanks for that snapshot, Tom. Just given a postcard from America. Cheers, mate. Howard in Llandudno says, you mentioned other beings in the galaxy. Thing is, if we do discover another planet with intelligent life, who are the aliens? Them or us? Well, now you got me thinking. And I hate thinking.
This is LBC with Nick Abbott. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
We are running late. I had an enormous amount of material I wanted to get in tonight, but I didn't manage to get to almost any of it because, all of these texts and these phone calls. How do these people get my number? Mark in Sydney says, the Australian Election Day barbecue has what's called a democracy sausage. A beef sausage in a bread roll with a side of grilled onions. That's an extraordinary thing. So they give that out when you take the time to go and vote. If you vote, you get a democracy sausage. If you don't, you get the hose again. It puts the democracy sausage in the basket, or it gets the hose again. This text says...
Through the currents of time we roam, where fate's whispers guide us home. In victories claimed or paths unknown, destiny's threads weave deep and wide. Scared. persevere in the silence where destinies align.
Perth, Australia here, we do indeed have sausages at our polling centres, also cupcakes and coffee. We have to buy them, but money goes to the local community organisations. We vote on Saturdays for extra convenience. Oh, we should be more Australian, by which I don't mean walking around in flip-flops. I mean, you know, votes-wise. This says, Trump's in power for 4 weeks, he's 4,000 miles away and he's shooting from the hip with grenades and fireworks. Makes you wonder what damage he'll do in the next 4 or 8 years. Well, it ain't going to be 4. He's not going to leave at the end of this term. I betcha. He's not going to do it. He is going to be there for at least 8 years, and I would expect that he would be there until he hands down the presidency to his younger son. Not Uday or Kusei, but Lurch, you know, the really big one. But when I said that before, people said, oh, no, he's too young because the law in America is... Forget the law in America. That's gone. Mike in Lancashire says, you may remember there was an episode of Only Fools and Horses. No, I don't. I don't, no. From Only Fools and Horses, I remember the chandelier falling down and him falling through the bar. That's it. And I only have seen those because they were clips on other shows. No, never saw it. Always seemed a bit, I don't know, sort of sad to me. British comedy has got an element of sadness in it. I mean, even Fawlty Towers, the greatest of them all, has elements of sadness in it. I mean, there's a man who is obviously undergoing acute mental issues, and he's trying to make it in life, but he just can't do it, and is stymied at every turn, regardless of what it is that he's actually trying to do. It's actually sad, but, you know, the brilliance shines through. Anyway, he says, Only Fools and Horses included a futuristic scene. Damien ruled the universe and Dell was some kind of stooge leader, also known as the evil Bond villain and the Tango Twit. All right, I'll stick that on my list as well. And Phyllis says, so far Trump's reign reminds me of that really funny film. Have you ever watched Team America World Police? Yes, I have, multiple times, including just recently. It's hilarious. I mean, it's... I even got Carol McGiffin to watch it.
Oh, right, yeah.
I persuaded her to do it because it was probably the least woke film that has ever been made. And that's what enticed her to see it. This says, I'd also be a benevolent dictator, although, of course, it would depend on my mood and the weather. Yeah, that's right. What else? I thought I'd got to the end of these, but there's so many of them. I want to do this about Albania. I have been saying it, so I better do it. A government-funded advertising campaign depicts the UK as expensive, run-down and prejudiced. What kind of a holiday promotion is that? A government-funded advertising campaign depicts the UK as expensive, run-down and prejudiced in a bid to stop Albanian migrants from coming to the country. Now it makes sense. Videos used in the social media drive, designed to reduce the number of people on small boats crossing the channel, show shops in this country covered in graffiti, as well as broken furniture on housing estates. All of which is true, but is it really worse than what they would be leaving in Albania? I mean, I had no idea. So I actually did homework today. Can you believe that?
No.
I looked up Albania on the internet. Try it yourself. Do an image search on Albania, and you'll see Roman amphitheatres and deep blue seas, which don't appear to contain much sewage. And there's mountains and greenery and charming little villages and pristine beaches and castles, and it actually looks like somewhere to go on a holiday from the expensive, run-down and prejudiced Great Britain. You know, if I were a patriot, I don't need sunshine and vistas. I don't need the waves lapping gently on the shore, and I don't need unspoiled wildernesses to get lost in, when I can have a day out in Skegness for the same price as a 2-week stay on the Albanian Riviera. Albanians should be putting up adverts telling Britons to stay away from there. It looks lovely. But they aren't, though. It's the other way around. And in order to persuade Albanians to remain in what looks like heaven on earth, instead of coming over here to do the jobs that we don't want to do, His Majesty's government is engaged in a pretty unpatriotic ad campaign labelling this country as a pretty unlovely place, which must cause a certain amount of noise in the mind of the little British flag wavers. They think this is the best country in the world, yet they probably want it talked down in order to repel any incomers who might want to see whether it is or not. And as well as showing shops covered in graffiti and broken furniture on housing estates, the ad campaign, titled Stories from Britain, also features Albanian refugees complaining about the cost of living in the UK. Hey, Albanians.
Stop whining.
It's all part of a £3.75 million a year project funded by the Foreign Office. Typical Labour, eh? Except this was a scheme that was started by the Conservatives. But that won't stop Kemi Badenough from braying on about how Labour are wasting our money, and if Labour cancel the ads, she'll go on about how that's a waste of the money that's already been spent. And the ads don't seem to work anyway. So away from the beaches and the scenery and the greenery, Albania must be even worse than here. Can you believe that?
No.
If only I knew where it was on the map, I might think about going there. I suppose the only person who really needs to know where it is the pilot. I'll ask him. Or her. Sexist. This text says, I'll try and get through as many as I can. This says, Sarah in Reading says, you keep saying give Labour a chance. How about giving Trump a chance too? We're now being governed by a whole tray of lettuces. No, we're not, Sarah. I've given Trump a chance. He's had this job before, remember? He's not new to us. This says, I'm concerned about all the snow falling into potholes. Somebody needs to look into them very deeply. Finally, somebody else who gave up on the lost on the. Finally, somebody who gave up on Lost the moment you realised no one was freaking out about the monster that ate the pilot in the first or second episode. It became totally unbelievable as a concept. Yeah, it was a stupid programme. I'm not going to get fooled by like that again. I mean, these days, if you haven't grabbed me within the first 10 minutes, I am likely to switch your programme off. This says, Dear Nick, what happens in Australia if you're too sick to move on voting day? Sudden onset of flu. Are you fined? I don't know. If you've got a decent excuse, I suppose, you might get away with it. This says, since Trump's inauguration, he has been signing dozens of executive orders every day. How many more executive orders are there for him to sign? I'm sure they'll just continue to give him pieces of paper. It looks like the maitre d' is handing him the wine list. He'll probably, if in a restaurant and somebody did give him the menu, he'd probably take out one of his Sharpies and give it a big boy squiggle. And I think finally, this isn't a funny end, but this is something to think about. Fran in Kent says, if people tell you they're not going to vote, tell them this. Think about who always votes. Extremists and nutters always vote. If you don't want your country run by extremists and nutters, presuming that you are not an extremist or nutter, then you should always vote. Correct amundo. 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 Amundo.